Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon on what has been a cold Tuesday. There are warmer days ahead and few complaints about that. Thank you so much for joining us out of all the things you could do on this Tuesday evening for watching us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Ahead on the broadcast, looking at, again, another brisk morning ahead for tomorrow. You know, this morning we had low temperatures down, low 20s. We think we'll probably be mid-20s again for tomorrow morning out there. There's just no insulation, as you can see in the background shot of that Tupelo Tower Cam there at this time of the evening. We are warming up as we go into the afternoon, so the next few days here. How warm? Well, maybe not as warm as we were, but at least milder and clear and dry looking into 2026. So we do have some very limited rain chances ahead. We don't have a whole lot of fronts to have moisture to work with. Our most recent ones shoved it all out of here. It's why we were so cold today, and it'll still be fairly chilly for tonight. As you can see on our first 12 here, we're 35 for that temperature at 6 p.m., dropping 29 by 9 p.m., 27 by 12 o'clock at midnight tonight, and then back into the lower 20s for the first part of tomorrow morning under what should be almost completely clear skies. Those winds are calmer. That means that wind chill factor less of an issue compared to what it was. Outside right now in Crenshaw, we show those clear skies. If you look closely there, I don't know that I can zoom that one in, I don't think. But those wind turbines still moving on the little bit of a wind that we have out there in the Delta. 37 degrees with a feels like wind chill temperature coming in right around 33. We're 39 in Starkville this evening. Good evening to you in Starkville as we look out from Davis Wade Stadium down toward the south. Maybe just a little bit of cloud cover out there. Honestly, looking at the way that begins there, that's probably a little bit of smoke. I'll have to put it in clear air mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar here in a minute, see if we can get a shot of that. Looking toward what's out there. Again, it's that time of year where from time to time some control burns are done, and maybe coming in 39 as well with, again, those mostly clear skies. And appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for allowing us to utilize all those cameras. Mississippi Live Weather Radar coming in the mostly clear category at this point here. I might have to go over to analysis mode to be able to force this one into a clear enough air mode that we can check out, because I'm curious to see if we put on all the different types of precipitation, whether or not we can kind of pick out whatever that smoke was down south there. It doesn't look like we're going to have a good shot of that, unfortunately, or fortunately, kind of depending on your perspective there. Now looking, maybe a little bit of that down there closer to Brooksville, but I don't see a true smoke plume looking at that there. So not terribly significant. I'm going to try one more thing here because I just can't resist. We're going to look at the GOES East visible. And I'll go back about an hour, see if we can see that there. Nope, don't have a good shot of that. So does not look like we can confirm a smoke plume on that, but that's okay. Not that that's something we'd want to do at this point, but always kind of good idea to see it. And I wouldn't be shocked, again, if that's certainly what that was. Temperatures have been the story for today, obviously. Chilly in the low 40s out there. Crenshaw, we showed the locations back out in the Delta there in the mid-30s, but coming in Greenwood at 40 degrees, 40 Kosciuszko, 37 for Amory, for Tupelo. And you can see still slicing off a few, down to 33 for what it feels like right now in Tupelo, 30 degrees in Corinth, and 29 in Iuka as of 5:03 p.m. So I mentioned that little bit of cloud cover. We show just some high and thin clouds out there on Mississippi Live Weather Radar and the satellite composite there. Of course, brought to you by Mama Justice. On the much wider shot here, similar story as we anticipated what we had yesterday. We still have, again, this snowfall for locations back out there up toward the Midwest, all that lake effect snow, that cold Canadian air kind of spilling in behind it here. Huge part of the weather story, and that's what's, of course, obviously making it very chilly out there for locations up that direction. And, I mean, the thankful thing is at least we are not as cold as they are. But that H that we have back toward Texas is the story, continuing to carve out the drier and clearer air. But if you look for those lines, they represent wind, and that wind direction very obviously still out of a northerly direction down in the Gulf of Mexico, but you bring it in a little bit closer around here, and I think the first thing you'll note is we don't have much wind around it, so that wind chill less of an issue for overnight tonight and early tomorrow versus where it was for today. So with mostly clear conditions, again, those temperatures likely dropping into the mid-20s out there, maybe even a couple lower 20s for morning lows for your early Wednesday morning. We'll look city by city at some of those lows here in a minute. So for the next 24, from around 27 with a few spots a little cooler than that to begin the day. We're 37 by 9 a.m., 51 by noon, and 54 degrees as we head toward tomorrow afternoon under mostly sunny skies. That is almost exactly what we expect for this time of the year. So it's a great place to wrap up 2025. But as we look toward 2026, we are looking at least some changes, hopefully some milder beginning temperatures for those low temperatures. Coming up in 60 seconds, we're looking at that. Your forecast for the Alabama game there at the Rose Bowl. Of course, we'll also have Ole Miss and Georgia, but that's in a dome. So I guess it's more for folks going into and out of that game. Look toward that Mississippi State forecast. All of our SEC football forecasts brought to you by Carl Hogan Toyota. Coming up here in 60 as Mississippi Live Weather continues from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
The clock is ticking on Room to Room's year-end clearance sale. For 5 days only, get half off furniture, mattresses, and Christmas decor, plus 20% off accessories. 5 days with 60-month special financing. And we pay the sales tax now at Room to Room.
Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious when he began to discover weather. Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
Well, as we kind of check out some temperatures here across the eastern part of the United States, for those of you saying it's too cold, obviously it's a lot chillier than we typically expect for this time of the year. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobhon. Thank you for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather at 5 as of about an hour ago at 4:05. As you can see, those temperatures coming in there in the mid-30s. You bring it up to the current time there, and we're dropping a little bit more. But the teens, the single digits, this big cold air mass making a much, much bigger difference for locations up to the north of us. So comparatively speaking, doing all right. And as far as tomorrow is concerned for those kiddos there, your no school day forecast has that wake up temperature around 28. So still pretty chilly to begin the day. We're 47 by midday, and then afternoon temperatures into the mid 50s as we kind of roll through this week before kids go back to school next week. Certainly looking like tomorrow a day where maybe you could convince them to put on a jacket and head outside. It was a little still cool for that today, but the next couple of days we're closer to what we expect for this time of year. Certainly not super warm, but warmer, more mild, more manageable as far as those warmer temperatures are concerned. Coming in as of tomorrow morning, you can see there about 28, that forecasted low temperature in Oxford, 26 for Bruce, for Houston, 26 degrees in Tupelo. That normal for this time of year is about 35, so still running below normal, still cold enough that perhaps if you're really sensitive, we need to keep a little drip going on those interior faucets, maybe that sink, and making sure those cabinet doors are open to let the air circulate beneath there. The folks over at Absolute Cleaning and Restoration, they are doing a kind of a giveaway of sorts, trying to help out the community by giving some faucet covers for, in particular, elderly. We've been running some commercials on that here on the 24-hour channel. You can check those out on their Facebook page, but giving away some of those faucet covers, just trying to give back and make sure people don't have issues where they have to call them later for restoration as far as that's concerned. So I think this is not as bad of an issue with that tomorrow morning as we were this morning, but we'll have more of that significant cold this season. We're still on the front end of it for sure. Future wind chill temperatures, 21. We're going there in New Albany and Tupelo. We're 20 degrees in Booneville, 27 Eupora, as well as Grenada, 24 degrees in Greenwood, and 25 for Belzona, under what, again, are these pretty chilly conditions to begin the day. So we're mostly clear skies as we progress through it, and that mostly clear conditions, again, owe the same reason we are cold. It's kind of interesting when you have these big transitions here, it all kind of comes back to the same thing, right? You get the big front that comes in when the cold air arrives, but it's all an air mass that originates from one of these H's, this high pressure center that we have. And so as a result, that keeps with the sinking air, our skies pretty clear, and keeps up with that offshore flow in this direction, not one that brings moisture. Almost anytime we're talking about moisture of significance, it's coming from the Gulf of Mexico, So when you have these northerly winds like what we have here, it's not coming from the Gulf of Mexico. So again, we are keeping it mostly clear as we progress throughout the day, and dry weather, largely a story going into the new year because of this as well. But as we wrap up 2025, as you can see here, 2, 3, 4 o'clock for tomorrow, expecting those mostly clear skies to be the story with, again, sinking air. Our nearest front, you can see up to the north of us, more than anything, sustaining our temperatures for where they're at as opposed to a big drop going ahead. So for tomorrow, we do warm things up versus where we were today. Normal on the books is 53. Where do we find ourselves? Right at 53 for Tupelo or Bruce, at 55, 54 degrees Houston, Eupora, 55 in Kosciuszko, as we are pretty much right on what we expect. And I think we largely get locked here for the next few days on those milder temperatures going forward. So your forecast for New Year's Eve, you're planning on going out and trying to be out and about in the evening. Tupelo, a good spot to do that. Of course, we have New Year's Eve celebrations going on here. 46 degrees set temperature at 6 p.m. We're 37 by 9 and 34 by the stroke of midnight. So it will be obviously chilly, but that 34, if you step outside right now, it's actually colder than that in many locations at this instant. So that tells you that if you can stand what it's like outside right now, you're going to be in good shape tomorrow. It will be milder by the time we hit midnight tomorrow night. As we check out, again, Futurecast, we are mostly dry, mostly clear here as we progress into your Wednesday evening, looking again around late evening, not much even in the way of cloud cover. And if your plans perhaps take you outside of North Mississippi, the only places we're going to have some issues around the region, obviously we do have a little bit of snowfall. Same kind of overall upper level pattern swirling around with kind of a closed core system, keeps that cold air and keeps that snowfall for locations back up there into West Virginia, as well as Kentucky up that direction. Our northerly winds behind this, notice how it's not as big a shift. You look at the winds here and they're relatively light, all things considered, versus what we had with our most recent front to come through. As a result, this is just kind of maintenance cooler air. So rather than dropping as significantly as we did with this most recent front, this kind of holds us about where we are, which is why when we look at these low temperatures for early morning on your Thursday, they're actually going to be still around the 30-degree point, upper 20s, lower 30s. That is obviously a little bit warmer than we were for this morning and tomorrow morning for that matter, but it's just kind of stalling that warming trend for one more day because of that cooler air. Senatobia coming in about 31 degrees, 31 there in Oxford, 30 in Bruce. We're about 30 in Vernon, coming in mid-30s for locations back out in the Delta, such as Cleveland, 36 in Greenville there, and 34 degrees in Belzona. Futurecast keeping it mostly dry, mostly clear as we head into your Thursday, but we do have a few more clouds on your New Year's Day. Don't expect any precipitation from these. These are high and thin clouds made up primarily of ice crystals as they move in, and so as a result, don't bring us any sort of precipitation, as we've been fairly dry recently, and that trend certainly continues through New Year's Day, coming with those temperatures around the closer to probably the upper 50s by afternoon with only mostly clear skies once again. Wide shot here, again, looking for changes, what we're always kind of doing, looking for the next big thing. Back to the north and west, well, we do have a system bringing a little bit of precipitation to the plains. What you don't see is much around here, and you don't have a big cold front with this. So that's why temperatures are gradually going to work their way a bit warmer into the extended forecast and keep those rain chances pretty limited. So high temperatures, again, normal 53. And that shows you from today, well below that, tomorrow closer to it, and Thursday, a little above that, coming in about 61 degrees. Grenada, Eupora, Starkville coming around 61. 60 for Cleveland, 58 Tunica, Senatobia, and South Haven coming in around 58. We're 60, again, Tupelo, and upper 50s, Iuka, about 57 and 57 degrees there in Corinth. Okay, football time. Let's talk about it. Alabama versus Indiana. This one obviously is tricky because of the rainfall potential here. This is you typically, when we're thinking a Rose Bowl, expect Southern California to be nice and dry, and this time of year we're dealing with something different. Obviously, it is the flip in this case here. Very rainy forecast there for both the Rose Bowl parade as well as the game itself. Honestly, weather could end up being a factor in this one here, especially with the rainfall they've had recently. I know they do a good job of trying to keep those field conditions in good shape, but man, we'll see how this works out. Appreciate Carl Hogan Toyota for sponsoring our SEC football forecast, including, of course, that Rose Bowl forecast there. Sugar Bowl, of course, is an indoor game, so we don't expect, obviously, the weather being a factor there. And in New Orleans, it will be dry for folks maybe venturing around town, maybe going down for the game, but maybe not going to the game itself. Upper 50s there for the forecast through the evening, with high temperatures tomorrow in the 60s down in the Big Easy. Again, no precipitation, and we are dry. That 6 p.m. First kick temperature on that game. And then looking ahead toward Friday, and everybody's looking ahead there for the Mississippi State game at the Duke's Mayo Bowl versus Wake Forest there. 48 first play temperature on that, expected to be dry and mostly clear. Okay, a few clouds, but dry conditions, and obviously those winds remaining fairly light with temperatures dropping through the 40s. So not a big impact there from weather in either of the Mississippi teams as far as that football forecast is concerned. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast. And normal high this time of year, kind of referenced this a few times through this broadcast, 53. We're right on for that for high temperatures on your Wednesday. But notice lows take a little longer to catch up there. That's that drier air. Will take probably until Friday before we get closer to what we would typically expect for this time of year. Coming to 59 for that high temperature on Friday. Again, around the 60-degree point in that weak front with just a slight bit of slightly cooler air there. Limited chances for rainfall with that weak storm system back on the plains moving toward us. Most of us are probably dry. We're 57 for Saturday, 58 degrees as we look towards Sunday, 60 by Monday as temperatures back up a little bit above normal into that extended forecast there. Not a lot of big changes with the forecast either, because we've kind of had this northwest flow pattern, cold core system up to the north and east sort of locked in that, and that certainly has kind of helped us to will help us to be a little bit milder, so there's no big change there. But we've been really pretty dry lately. We're looking at some of the rainfall totals over the course of the next few weeks here, and in particular kind of looking at the extended forecast, if we can kind of change that with the extended projections there from the Climate Prediction Center coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast. Before we wrap things up here, as we go back to talk a little bit about football here, we do have an update coming from our Will Kohlmeyer here related to, of course, the bowl games. And in particular, a lot of folks are very interested in the Sugar Bowl, that playoff game. Will Kohlmeyer has this report for us from Oxford.
Welcome to Kohlmeyer's Corner. We are here in Oxford on the Ole Miss campus. A windy day to say the least, but we are finally at game week for the Sugar Bowl, and Ole Miss, they can't wait to get back at it against Georgia, the 6 versus the 3 seed, and the Rebels continue to be one of the hottest acts in the college football playoffs, as the Sugar Bowl is the most expensive get-in ticket on the secondary market among the 4 quarterfinal matchups. Ole Miss, of course, 9-0 at home this season inside Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, including that trouncing of Tulane 2 Saturdays ago. What a special day that was for Ole Miss fans, and kudos to Keith Carter and company. They put on a show not only on the field, Pete Golding and his guys took care of that, but just the whole atmosphere and the ambiance that had this college football playoff matchup with Tulane. But now we're moving forward, and they're taking on a Georgia team that might possibly be playing the best football of anyone in the country right now. They sure impressed me, as did a lot of others in that SEC championship game against Alabama. And you know how I love to give all of you nuggets on my previews all during the football season, just little different bits of information to add a storyline or two for the game. And in this one, this is just the 4th time the Sugar Bowl has had an SEC versus an SEC opponent, and the Ole Miss Rebels have been involved in all 4 of them now. Back in the day, they lost to Georgia Tech, and yes, I know Georgia Tech not in the SEC anymore, but they were at that time, and they beat Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, as did Alabama, but the Rebels did shut out LSU in the Sugar Bowl. Of course, all 3 of those matches way back in time. This, though, Ole Miss versus Georgia this Thursday night on New Year's Day. And of course, the fun facts and the previews have just started. I'll be here all week to continue previewing this matchup between the Rebels and the Bulldogs. But for now, that's the story here in Oxford on the Ole Miss campus. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Appreciate Colmeyer for that one. Let me get back here to for a moment that forecast again. Nice to see for both Mississippi State and Ole Miss. The forecast expected to be in pretty good shape here. A lot of folks get excited to head down there to the Big Easy. We'll have another update from Will tonight at 10 o'clock. We'll also have another update from him each of the next couple of days, kind of previewing his picks on this matchup as we get closer to it. Obviously, one that so many folks are excited about, and luckily the forecast looking good for both Mississippi State there, and of course Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Our next live broadcast is going to be coming up here at 6 o'clock. One of the things we'll be looking at there, again, that extended forecast, long range, how do temperatures compare versus where we're at, precipitation. We need some moisture, and I think we're eventually going to get into that shift in the pattern, but how long does it take before that happens? We're looking at that here live from the Room to Room Weather Center at 6 p.m., and, of course, broadcast every day, 6:37, 7:30 a.m., and 5, 6, and 10 p.m. We will see you coming up at 6.
By the time you see the symptoms of lung cancer, it could be too late. Now there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early. If you smoked, get scanned.
Hate is loud, but love is the majority.